1. So back in November 2022, I, a 32-year-old woman, moved into my current apartment with a guy, also 32, I went to college with. We were never friends, to be honest, but I was looking for a place, and a friend in common told me back then that he was looking for a roommate since his previous one was about to move. He was already living there, but the name on the lease was his former roommate's, and since he is from out of town, the landlord didn't want to make a lease under his name. Now, this apartment is in a really nice area at an incredibly low price, so I was in no position to say no, so I took the lease and moved in. It's been almost 2 years, and while we hadn't had any major issues, there have been multiple small ones that are by now getting on my nerves. Let me give you a little context about him. He's an only child from a wealthy family, not super wealthy, but he never had any kind of money issues. He is also a mommy's boy, so his mother always did everything for him. He never learned how to properly clean a house, wash clothes, or cook. By now he has been out of his parents' house for around 10 to 12 years, and he never really got that those things were needed. Now, to be honest, I am not, by any way, someone who needs everything to be clean and shiny all the time. Also, I've spent a lot of time working, and even if it is home office, I can't clean everything all the time. But for crying out loud, it's so tiring knowing that this man has not a single time took the time to even take out the trash without me having to ask him. Same for everything else cleaning related, even when he was the one who caused the mess. He won't complain once I tell him to wash the dishes or clean the bathroom or whatever, but come on, he's a full-grown man and he lives here. I should not have to mom him into doing any of his duties. On the same page as the last one, he kind of expects me to be the one who takes care of everything. I have to make the payments for rent and utilities, also under my name, buy anything that is needed, toilet paper, cleaning supplies, etc., and fix stuff that is broken or be the one who calls someone to fix it. Again, it is tiring. The second issue is his dog. The dog is lovely and I really like him. The issue is that he is not trained at all, is very spoiled and has severe separation anxiety. So whenever my roommate has to leave the house without the dog, he would make a huge mess. He's not a destroyer, but will pee and poop everywhere, even if he is alone for just a bit. And he has gone into my room and peed there. Can't close the door because I have a cat, and his feeder and litter box are inside. Many times, roommate won't clean that either unless I ask. Another thing about the dog is that he barks at anyone he sees or walks outside the door. He is not aggressive, but it gets really annoying since this is an apartment building. And last, and I'm aware this is a one-sided problem, but still annoying, I just plainly don't like him. Yes, this is me being the butthead, and I'm aware of it, so I have to manually be nice to him and constantly check myself to avoid being rude. I don't hate him, nor think he is a bad person. We are just very different in pretty much everything. We have extremely different points of view on pretty much every subject, which has caused a few awkward and tense moments before when talking about serious or important subjects. And since I don't want to have issues with the person I live with, I'd rather avoid talking to him at all. I'm a very extroverted but private person, so I actually enjoy talking to people, but he has a very intrusive way of talking to people that makes me really uncomfortable. And he is unable to read that, and will keep pushing and trying to force conversations even when I am busy or clearly annoyed or not in the mood. Now all of that is just background for what I'm about to talk about. Today he went away to his home city for a few days and asked me to take care of his dog, and I have no issue with that since he takes care of my cat constantly. What happened was that he forgot to take the dog's food bowl out of his room. I have a policy to never get into any of my roommates' rooms unless invited or really needed. And the dog was crying in hunger, so I got inside and, well, damn, I wanted to cry. Trash absolutely everywhere. Floor has not been mopped a single time. Walls are dirty as hell and stained with God knows what dark thing. There's actually a piece of wall missing. How? Several dry stains of dog pee. Just, how can anyone live like that? Now bear in mind that the lease is under my name and the entirety of the security deposit came from my wallet. If I wanted to leave and the landlord sees that mess, I would lose that money, because aside of what I already told you, he has nailed to the walls a lot of shelves, a TV, and other things, and we are not allowed to modify anything inside. That includes nailing stuff to the walls. Also, there is another hole in the wall that he made before I moved in to put an Ethernet cable from the living room to his room, which we are not allowed to have either. Now, I feel kinda disgusted by him, and I don't know what to do. I really like the place, and since it's under my name, I should not be the one leaving, and while I feel bad about the idea of kicking him out, him not being from town and having to move back to his home city, this mess has been growing for a while now, so I'm not sure if just talking to him might solve anything. I do make enough money to pay for the place on my own, but if I do that, I won't be able to save as much as I'd like, and don't know how long it will take me to find someone else. I'm also scared that if I kick him out, he might refuse to pay for everything that needs to be fixed in his room, since I should not have to pay for that. How do I approach this? Have any of you been in this situation before? Please help. Hellfreezer's note. I think you definitely need to not be living with him, regardless of how that happens. I'm a little concerned about the lease situation, though. It sounds shady that the landlord didn't want to make a new lease. It sounds very suspicious. It's almost like the landlord knew something was up. I'm afraid you might have to just take the loss on the repairs. It sucks. It's not fair. You could possibly take him to civil court to get him to pay. Or maybe he'll be a bit more moral than we're expecting and he'll realize he's messed up and these things need to be taken care of. If you do confront him, do have a friend with you just in case. And yeah, I think if you have the option of kicking him out, do so. It sounds like he's probably going to land on his feet anyway. He sounds like that type of guy. Best of luck with the situation, and I hope that if you do choose to room with someone else, that is someone who's a lot more compatible with you in every way. 2. I live with my brother, and we both work travel jobs that occasionally coincide with being away from home at the same time. Both of our contracts are seasonal, so it's not a full year issue. I have 2 dogs. I got a roommate, so I didn't have to look for and pay for dog care so often while I'm away at work. I specifically offered a lower rent than the rest of the area with the caveat that whoever moved in must be a dog lover and take care of my dogs while I'm out of town. I had 2 rooms available, a finished room with a shared bathroom or an unfinished basement with a private bathroom that I offered cheaper because it is unfinished. This guy chose the unfinished basement and even said he'd be willing to finish it, and we can exchange labor for rent. He's been here 3 weeks. He immediately took over the entire fridge for his carnivore diet, and has been leaving out dirty dishes, which is extra lazy because I have a dishwasher. He could just set the dishes in the dishwasher and start it later when it's full. He hasn't paid rent for the first month, which was fine because we were going to exchange work for rent that first month. He hasn't done any of the work on the room. He hasn't even done the work he quoted, which was just demo of the current installation, which does not take long and wouldn't even have cost half the rent. I asked for before and after pictures, and he never even sent the before pictures. When I finally demanded pictures after the dog incident, it was very clear that he'd pulled down a couple of things of insulation and that's it, and he decided to say he did 4 hours of work. When I called him out on it, saying there was no way that was 4 hours of work, he doubled down and said it was actually 7 hours of work. He tried to say he had to do work behind the walls, but he hasn't done the demo to get behind the walls. He won't even take care of the dogs. The dogs ended up having a vet appointment when my brother got called out on assignment, and my brother had to reschedule because this dude immediately said, "I didn't sign up to take the dogs to any appointments." The thing is, I have a dog door and refillable food and water bowls, so they let themselves out to use the bathroom, and you only need to give them food or water maybe once a week. They only have vet visits about twice a year for vaccines, checkups, and teeth cleanings. And my brother is only gone for like 2 weeks at a time, and he thinks he should get lower rent for refilling a food and water bowl twice. Not that he has paid rent yet, mind you. And he lost my dogs. He left the back gate open, on purpose. His excuse was that it was too hard to close. He was still going in and out, and had done it multiple times, and the dogs hadn't gotten out yet. He didn't inform me until they were already missing for 16 hours. He only looked for them for about 20 to 30 minutes when he lost them, And that's it. He made it perfectly clear he didn't care. He said, "I'm not a worrier, it only causes stress and anxiety." Thankfully, they're microchipped and were picked up by animal control. He had the opportunity to pick them up straight from the animal control officer, but he refused to go and get them right then, so they had to go to the pound. And of course, he had to pay a fine for them being at the pound. And then he was a total jerk-off to the animal control officer while at the pound because he had to pay a fine that he knew he'd have to pay, and that me and her both gave every opportunity for him not to have to pay. Then he threw my dogs unsecured in the back of his pickup truck and drove them home like that. My dogs could have jumped out on the road and died. And after all this, he had the audacity to say that my dogs are being needy and need a bath and their nail trims. He won't bathe them, and he also won't take them to a groomer. And he has only been living with me 3 weeks. I only work part of the year, and my brother is only gone for a couple of weeks at a time when he leaves for work, so the majority of the time the dogs are with me or my brother. I am not going to rehome my dogs because they need to have a dog sitter for a week or 2 at a time part of the year. I would prefer to have a roommate so that they have the same sitter each time. We can't all be blessed with other family or friends in the area that we've known for years and are willing to provide dog care. I wanted a roommate who loves dogs, so I didn't have to find a new dog sitter each time he left at the time I was gone. I specifically charged hundreds of dollars less on rent because the person would be taking care of my dogs when both my brother and I are gone. It was in my roommate advertisement. It's also in the signed lease that he would be expected to take care of my dogs. The dogs needing to go to the vet just coincided with when this guy moved in. I would be fine if he needed to reschedule, but he just says anything to do with the dogs isn't his job. It's literally in the lease he's signed that when neither my brother and I are there, the roommate would be in charge of care of the dogs. It was just one of many examples that he was expecting everything out of the lowered rent lease agreement without providing anything in return. I don't know anyone personally in the area, other than my brother. I wish I did. I would obviously hire them to watch my dogs. Any friends in the area also have their own lives and their own jobs and don't have the time to dog sit, and I would not force them to. I've only started this job in the last couple of years. I've had these dogs before I started this contract work. My current job is one of my dream jobs. Same place I've always wanted to go. I work overseas for part of the year, and I'm at home full-time the rest of the year, and it isn't a job I plan on doing for all too long, so rehoming my dogs, as some people have suggested, would be unnecessary and detrimental to them. I moved in with my brother so he could watch my dogs while I work. He needs to go on assignment occasionally, so I have hired a dog sitter while he's gone. The dogs only need a dog sitter part-time for part of the year. My brother is a wildfire firefighter, so he is only seasonal and isn't sent out on assignment all the time. But he can be called out randomly, which is what happened this time. Unfortunately, everything is on fire right now, so he's been sent out on assignment way more than expected, so I've had to have dog sitters much more than expected, which is why I looked for a roommate. I looked for a roommate so that my dogs could stay in my house and have the same sitter each time. I don't really care that he didn't take them to the vet. It was just the cherry on top. He showed up and immediately started displaying that everything he'd agreed to was baloney. The dogs are both disabled and older, so they don't even really need walks. It was the fact that he just said that anything to do with the dogs wasn't his problem. He even considered just giving the dogs basic affection to be too much. So, he wasn't a professional dog sitter. Hellfreezer's note: well, he has broken the lease he agreed to sign, so you can kick him out easily at any time, which you should do. The only suggestion I can make is being more inquisitive with your roommates. Inquire as to if they have dogs, what history they have with dogs, all that sort of thing. But more importantly, they have to be a dog person. And this guy isn't even paying you money, so he's just taking up space and causing you strife, so definitely get him out as quickly as you can. Best of luck to you and your duckies. 3. So my almost ex-roommate and I have never really clicked. She has violated boundaries that I bent on many times, including going into my space. A boundary that I wouldn't bend on was that I didn't want her abusive ex-boyfriend in the apartment. She agreed for a time and then randomly texted me saying he was there. I found this unacceptable, so I made the decision to leave. That on top of all the other things, it just no longer felt safe to me. So I moved out and told her that I would pay half the rent for 2 months until she found another roommate. After 2 months of dragging her feet and shutting down literally everybody, I let her know that I would not be paying for August. Suddenly she found somebody. I was over the moon when I heard this. The leasing company sent me a change of occupant form, which I signed and sent back as soon as I got it. They asked me when I would be moving out. I said that I would be moving out on the 2nd so I could pay the last bit of rent, since they would not accept a check from me. And I really didn't want to just send her the money, because then she can easily say she didn't get it. This morning at 6 a.m. I woke up to a whole bunch of texts, basically crapping on me for saying that I set my move-out date on the 2nd. Apparently it scared her potential roommate because he didn't get a copy of the lease. She called me a control freak and said that she would take me to court. She said she would call my company and report that I left the door unlocked. My bad, I did it twice, and started yelling at me about how I violated the lease. I gave my friend a key, because I kept locking myself out during off hours, and the previous roommate couldn't leave work and unlock the door for me. I also told her this up front early in the process, and she said she was okay with it. She also said that I couldn't have my friend deliver the key because it was a security issue, the same one who had the key before. She basically called me a piece of crap because I had my boyfriend visit for a short visit, just over a week. And I asked her point blank if it was okay with her, and she was more than accommodating and happy to have him there. She called me a slob and said that I made her uncomfortable when, a few times, I was enjoying my own company. Not realizing she wasn't home, asked her if she heard anything so I could adapt my approach and be more considerate of the thin walls. She said she is going to take me to court because I scared the other roommate off and I'm still liable for the other half of the rent. She says that I lied about the rent cost, and I will admit I unknowingly did. She signed in November, and in December the updated pricing hit and raised it by $75. I was making sure it was split down the middle, and I communicated to her and apologized, and I ate the cost of the water bill and sewage bill, as well as the pet fee. It was only for one. I even helped her get her car out of the impound one time. I paid it in full because I knew she was going through the low part of her month. Now, I will fully admit that I am not perfect. We did have a fight where I wanted to have a friend stay over for a little bit, because she wasn't in a safe situation, and she would not give me a straight answer on whether or not she was okay with that, and then tore into me, and I reacted poorly because she was having me try to sell her in something that she had every intention of not accepting. Now she wants to rat me out to my company, who likely wouldn't care, and sue me since the replacement of occupancy only stated her name as the person absorbing the occupancy. And in all honesty, if she hadn't railed me for something that I think is perfectly reasonable, I would have been more than happy to pay for next month's rent as well, because I know that was beyond her control. But now I'm just scared and defensive, and I know I did a lot of stuff wrong that puts me in a position that I don't want to be in. I just want to be rid of her. I never want to have to speak to her again. Although, if there's a little bit of funny to be taken from this, she kept on saying, "Let's see what Reddit thinks about this," which, I guess. I wonder what YouTube thinks. Hellfreezer's note: it sounds like she doesn't have even the hint of a case. If she wants to take you to court, fine, she'll probably end up paying your costs, or get a bit of a spanking from the judge for wasting everybody's time. You may have done some small things that were inconvenience. I don't agree you caused any problems with the rent. The price was updated. It happens, it sucks. But you did give her accurate information at the time, and you did correct the information as soon as it was available. So I think you're fine there. And as you say, you ate the cost of the water and sewage bill. If she wants to go to court for it, you could go after her for that, if she's going to be petty. As I understand it, you have signed the change of occupancy, so it's not going to be your problem much longer. She can try whichever approach she likes here, but she's not going to get very far. I think you'll be okay in the long run. 4. I'm a 28-year-old man, and agree to let my friend, 29 and male, move into my one-bedroom apartment, in a goal to eventually get a 2-bedroom apartment together. But I decided not to after a lot of issues. So a little knowledge of me as a person, I like to make sure everything is clean and organized, because I dislike bugs or rodents possibly coming in, and I simply like to have a clean apartment. Also, I enjoy my own space to myself, and I like being by myself. So him coming would just be cool because he's a friend, and we could save and move, since it is split even through splitting bills. Or not, doesn't affect me much since I work full-time. So my friend is someone I've known for 4 or 5 years, and we would play games with each other all the time and talk. The past year he wasn't doing well where he quit his job. Him and his mom had to move in with his aunt because their rent went up at their old place. He was going to get kicked out of his aunt's because he was doing nothing but playing video games and barely looking for jobs or working. At this time, I had been in my apartment for about half a year already. We had talked about moving into a big apartment with all of our friends since most of us lived in my city except him. So after I moved in, and he was possibly going to get kicked out, we talked about just getting a 2-bedroom apartment since we liked the same things and hobbies. Months before him coming here, he already knew I was someone who deep cleaned my apartment 2 times a week, and I like to keep everything clean. We also talked about that, how he was supposed to apply to jobs before he could arrive here, so he could have applications in already. I did have an idea of how he is as a person, only to a specific extent, but I thought he would change since he's away from family and promised to try to do better. So here's the issue, where I'm trying to figure out if I'm doing too much or if my feeling of me being nice is being taken advantage of. We made a promise to where he would clean the kitchen, I would clean the living room, we would alternate on cleaning the bathroom every week. He would buy the paper towels and toilet paper, and I would buy the dish soap and trash bags. The first 4 to 6 months, I would have to talk to him about how he needs to not forget he has to hold up his end of the deal with cleaning, and he needs to focus on applying for jobs and not play the game. He would always wake up and only play the game. I am a person who is easily angered, so I don't mention issues unless I see that it is a repeated thing. I would also talk to a mutual friend who is neutral, so I could hear their point of view, because it would help me to not talk to my roommate with anger, but a clear mind. I also mentioned to my roommate about how I am and what I do. So besides the cleaning and applying to jobs, he would constantly yell while in Discord servers to the point where I can't hear any movies, video games, or even join a voice chat with my friends. He would put his dirty socks or jacket on the kitchen table, clip his nails in the kitchen and all. I have mentioned a couple of times how he needs to stop, and that is disgusting. He would stop for a bit and then go back to doing it again. I was going to kick him out, but he'd gotten a job at Amazon, so I made the excuse myself that he'd gotten a job so things might change, and guess what? It didn't change too much, he still continued. When we got to around 9 months of him being inside, there was an incident where I texted him to buy paper towels because he hasn't bought any in 3 weeks, and I was at work all day. Went to an event for my union until 8 p.m. He told me I could grab them on my way home, and he has been home all day, and my kitchen was dirty. So I sat him down and told him I will no longer be going forward on getting a 2-bedroom apartment with him, so he will have to get his own apartment or go back home. I had multiple times I could have kicked him out, but I made excuses, because I did want him to do better, and was trying to be a good friend. I understand deep cleaning twice a week sounds obsessive to most, which isn't why I'm upset. I'm upset because we sat down and talked about everything and agreed on a deal on everything. Then he didn't hold up his word. I also did mention how as a friend he is still my friend, but as a roommate he is horrible. So now he is on a waiting list for an apartment he applied to. But I feel like I am the bad guy because I couldn't care less about him being there or the waiting list for the apartment. Every day I just want to tell him to pack his things and go back home to his mother's, because to me he just feels like something that's taking up space. In addition to the story, and this is just nitpicking, is that one of the main reasons he came up here is because all of his friends are here, but he doesn't bother to hang out with anyone when we gather for birthdays or anything. So in my brain it's basically like, it feels like I still live alone, why not officially live alone instead of having someone take up space in my apartment? Hellfreezer's note, you're absolutely right there. Whether or not you can salvage the friendship, time will tell. But just because you're good as friends, and as we've learned from a lot of these stories, it doesn't mean you're going to be compatible as roommates. You learned that lesson the hard way, but now you know the answer, and you know not to make that mistake again. I hope he gets the apartment he applied for, but if he is able to go somewhere else, that might also be a smart option as well. Best of luck to both of you. 5. I've previously had a lot of issues with this housemate in regards to him trashing the house, never cleaning, and just being a general bum. Recently, he has been having his family stay at the house every weekend, mostly his mum. His mum is very controlling, will rearrange my belongings, takes up so much mental and physical space. We have a small house and she spreads herself out across every room. I've been living out of home for years and never had problems. This is her son's first time and she is quite controlling, but never towards him, only me. The truth is, I keep this house running. I clean every single day, pay the bills, and maintain a good relationship with our neighbors. My housemate smokes weed every single day, leaves food, my food, he always eats my food and denies it, and literal dirt all over the house, plays loud music late at night, and has had screaming matches with the neighbors. A few weeks ago, I told him I'm having some friends from out of town stay for the weekend. I never have friends over, but I've booked this weekend off and made plans. Today he told me his mum will be staying this weekend. It's worth noting that his mum has been staying here every weekend for the last month. I told him I already had people staying and that the house really isn't big enough. We have plans to get ready and have drinks before we go out, and it's a bit hard when his mum is here. He turned it into a fight and told me his mum doesn't care. We live in a 3-bedroom house. He has 2 of the rooms. One of them has his gaming setup and a spare bed. He told me I'm not allowed to have people sleep in the spare bed, so no matter what, his mum will be staying. Most of the time when his mum is here, she brings over friends and they sleep on my couch, so this doesn't seem fair considering we both pay the same amount in rent. The mum is extremely irrational and will turn on me in an instant. I once had to confront him for leaving dishes all over the house, cigarette butts on the ground, etc., while I was away for a few days. He told his mum what I said, and she turned on me, and we have a strange relationship now. I'm at my wit's end and do not know what to do about this. I'm already having to cancel plans with my friends for this weekend, and I don't know what to do. Update. Thanks for your advice. To clarify a few things, the house is a rental, I do not own it, but I have lived here for 2 years, him for 3 months. All of the furniture and belongings, utensils, electronics, cleaning products, etc. are mine, other than what he has in his rooms. I have the master bedroom, still small as hell to be honest, but I let him use the 2 smaller rooms. We agreed upon his gaming setup in the spare room, but a bed we can have for guests. He has not upheld this and now claims it as his own room and says I am not allowed in there. His mother is on the lease and he is under the legal age. Our real estate is aware of the situation. This rental agreement was the only way I could manage to stay in the property when my original lease was up. There is a very bad rental shortage where I live, and being young and having a dog means finding a new place would be hard. This situation worked out at the time, although clearly I didn't know what I was getting myself into. At the age I am, and with what I do for work, I am a very rational person and able to have conversations where I set boundaries and create a space for both parties to share thoughts and concerns. I have made extra effort to do this with my housemate, but I think his lack of maturity makes this difficult, as he tends to lash out at me or tell me I'm uptight. Some other slightly interesting context is the gender dynamic in the house. I'm a 22-year-old female. He is a 17-year-old male. He was raised in a house where he is pampered by his mother and has very sexist beliefs. The woman cleans, the man works. He believes cleaning should not be his responsibility because he works full-time. I also work full-time, often 6 days a week. He has many times expressed his frustration that I make more money than him because his job is way harder and it's not fair. This gets brought up in conversation when he takes my food or doesn't pay bills. The reality is his mum sends him hundreds of dollars a week. He orders takeout constantly, spends money on expensive food, and smokes all of his money away. I'm doing everything in my power to find an alternative living situation, but at this stage, it really isn't an option. I can't afford to buy a house, and the rental market isn't favored towards young people, especially with pets. I got lucky with my first few rentals, but at this stage, I think it's too risky to break my lease and be stuck with the possibility of homelessness. I have tried having conversations with the mother about the situation, when her son was leaving huge messes around the house, and I tried to have a chat about it. He lashed out, yelled, and denied everything. He told his mother lies about me and she turned on me, making all of these future conversations difficult. She sees no wrong in her child, and no matter what, can't accept that maybe he is the problem. Once again, thank you everyone for your responses. Hellfreezer's note, as it is a situation you're essentially stuck in right now, although do keep looking. If you find something better, go for it. Document, document, document. Take pictures of all the messes, keep notes of anything of yours that goes missing. Keep a total of the food of yours he's stealing and eating. You're being treated like a guest in your own home. It doesn't really matter if the mother's name is on the lease. She's not the tenant, and if that's been approved by the landlord that the son stay there, not the mother, I would look at the terms of your lease. She's probably not allowed to be there, or certainly not allowed to stay there as often as she is. There's usually a stipulation for how long you can have guests. Sometimes it's continuous, sometimes it's a total number of days out of the month or the year. Definitely look into that. I would recommend, if you're able to, getting a small refrigerator, just a little one, keeping the essential stuff of yours in your room that you don't want, maybe with a lock on it if that's possible. It's a terrible situation you're in, and I hope it does not last forever. I've really got to wonder why, if her son is so wonderful, he's not currently living with her. Best of luck to you. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Bad Roommates episode 27. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button and share the video with friends and family. To get early access to the videos and to help the channel out a lot, by which I mean me, support me on my Patreon page, which is linked for you in the description, for as little as $1 or more if you like a month. You can pledge as much as you like. You get to support the channel, and, more importantly, you get early access to the videos on a Monday. You'll also find links there to the Hellfreezer Discord server, as well as a merchandise store on Teespring. Okay, I thought we had a birthday shout out there. It turns out it's not till October. Brian is doing mush things. Okay, so no other business today. Let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: what is the most shocking price increase in the past few years? I know this because I was looking something up on my Amazon account, and I was checking when I'd started ordering something during lockdown, and I came across the price of eggs in 2020. They were like $1.69 for a dozen large free-range eggs. It's almost double that price today. So, not surprising, eggs have become very expensive, but I had no idea it was that bad. Obviously, price will vary depending on the store you go to. I'm not going to name the particular store here, but very, very expensive. So why don't you let me know what you think in a comment below. And before I go, let's have the answer of the day from a previous video. And this question was in relation to, this was from Bedroom Ace 25, and was about, do you add things like vegetables, was the example I gave, to a meal just because it looks a little boring and you want it to look more interesting? And today's answer comes from Moonlight545. Absolutely a must, especially in the summer, as I am that person who grows zucchinis. There are many ways to incorporate it in, with or without function, imparting more flavor, but in general, can be most any veggie, raw or cooked. I have always enjoyed them. And for those of us in the UK, zucchini would be a courgette. I remember having that discussion with Jack, and there was confusion until we actually shared pictures, and we're like, oh, right, that thing. And with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.